Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Thanks for tuning in for another episode. I got a really interesting question from a viewer the other day. It was one that got me thinking, and I was like, I gotta make a video out of it just because it's a fun topic. I thought it would be a good one to spur some conversation between us. It would be one that gets us thinking about what are some of these baits that you rely on. The question specifically was, Matt, you're getting towards the end of the tournament day and you're looking to make a Hail Mary cast to catch a big fish or to fill a limit out, what baits are you going to go with? And it's a really good question because, there are kind of two completely different categories here. You've got the Hail Mary pass to catch a giant fish to take you from a good bag to a tournament winning bag. And then you've got other baits that maybe you got three fish in your live well and you're trying to catch five, or you're trying to fill a limit out before the end of a tournament. And you're like, man, what am I going to throw in the last 15 minutes to try to catch an extra keeper or two keepers? So there's two different categories here, but I'm going to address both. I've got two baits that I really rely on to catch keepers if I'm looking to fill a limit. And then I've got three baits here that I rely on to catch really big fish to try to put me over the top to win a tournament, to make the Hail Mary cast or hit the home run, as they like to say. And I thought this would be a fun video because honestly, I don't know that I've ever had anyone ask me that question or use the terminology, what are your home run baits? What are your Hail Mary baits? I know we're all familiar with it from football where people talk about making that Hail Mary pass to win the game. But it's pretty interesting because it can be applied to fishing as well. So we're going to talk about that today. I do want to point out though a couple of things first, guys. If you want to support the channel, there's a bunch of ways you can do it. I've got a members only page that you can learn about. I do lake breakdowns where we provide additional content and help and provide 40 waypoints for lakes that you fish in your area. I do one-on-one virtual lessons where we can have a Zoom call to discuss fishing. I have merchandise if you want to check that out. If you want to use my Tackle Warehouse affiliate link to purchase tackle at Tackle Warehouse, all of those are great ways to support the channel. In the video description for this, there's links to all of those if you want to find out more ways to support the channel or get more contact with me directly. All right, so let's talk about this. I'm going to split it up. I'm going to go with the big fish bait, then a small fish bait, or a limit fish bait, big fish bait, and back and forth. And there's no particular order to it. It kind of relates a little bit more towards the type of lake I'm fishing, and what the conditions are at that time. But I really, really like to throw bigger swim baits to generate a big strike. One of my favorites is an 8-inch Bass Tricks hollow belly swim bait. In this case, I've actually got this rigged up where I've got a stinger hook that I rig out the back. But the reality here is this is an absolutely phenomenal bait to generate big strikes. This is the big one. I like to throw the 7 and the 8-inch size. It's one of those things that has a very, very natural swimming motions. And for me, I don't get a ton of strikes on the big ones, but when I do get a bite, it's going to be a big one. It's generally one of those fish that's going to go to the weigh-in with me, and I love throwing it. It's also a good bait. What I've found a lot of times in tournaments, at the end of the first day, if I'm throwing something like this, I've had a lot of instances where I have a big fish show themselves. They'll come out and follow the bait, and I may not generate the strike. But on day two, I start on that spot and I end up catching that fish on a different presentation. Maybe it's a wacky rig, maybe it's a jig, whatever it is. If I saw that fish the day before, and a lot of times it happens where it's the last 15 minutes of the day, I'm trying to get a big bite on this Bass Trick swim bait, and it doesn't happen, but I see the fish. The next morning, it's my first stop, and I've caught that fish in a lot of instances. So even though it didn't turn out to be a home run that day in the tournament, it was a home run to start the next day off. But I love a big hollow belly swim bait. There's a lot of good swim baits on the market, but I still feel like that old school or one of the OG hollow belly Bass Trick swim bait is still one of the best, if not the best out there in terms of generating that big strike. So I almost always have a rod rigged up with one of those in my boat. A lot of times I don't even pull it out until the last hour of the tournament day, but it has paid off really good in a lot of years, in a lot of tournaments for me. So that's the first one. That's a big fish. Now, if I'm looking to catch a limit or fill my limit, I'm going to go the complete opposite. And I'm going to throw a little 3.3 Kitech Fat Impact swim bait on a Matt Steffen Dirty Jigs guppy head. This is the 3/16 ounce size, which I think is one of the best all around size weights for your jig heads. This stupid little guy can just generate bites. It's one of those baits that the fish have a hard time passing up. If you slowly wind this past them, you will generate a ton of strikes. Now, I got to say, a lot of times those strikes are from fish that are 10, 12, 14 inches, but a lot of those fish are what you're looking for to fill your limit out at the end of the day. So if I'm looking just to catch fish and to fill my limit, this is a great bait to do it. I've had a lot of tournaments where I had 4 fish going into the weigh-in and I had a half hour to fish, and I pull that thing out, pluck my 5th keeper, and then go back to doing whatever I was doing. It's a bait that I have supreme confidence in terms of generating strikes and catching fish. It catches big ones too. Don't get me wrong. You can catch big, big fish on it. But if you're looking to generate bites, it's a great bait to generate a strike. All right. So the next one of my favorite ways to catch big fish, and it does not matter what time of day it is to throw a big topwater bait. You know, topwaters Topwaters generally have a really good capability of creating a big bite because of the fact that they're on the surface, their silhouettes are broken up, the fish don't get a good look at them. And we all know topwaters generate big strikes. You can catch really big fish on a topwater. And a good bait for me to do that is this guy right here. This is the Evergreen shower blower. This is the 125 size. This thing is great because you can cover a lot of water with it. You can make extremely long casts. It's a big profile bait. And for me, again, it's not necessarily the first topwater that I'm going to reach to catch fish. But if I'm looking for a bigger bite, I feel like this generates bigger strikes for me. I've caught some really large bass on this of all 3 bass species: spotted bass, smallmouth, largemouth. I've caught really big fish on a shower blower, and this is one that I really like. I really enjoy this color as well. Uh, but if I'm looking to catch a big one at the end of the day, a topwater is going to be something that I'm going to be very much considering, especially if the conditions are right for it. You know, I don't care. A lot of people out there say you got to throw a topwater in low light conditions. I am the opposite. I think if you're looking to win a tournament, you throw a topwater all day long. You may not generate as many bites during full sun or high sky days, but when you get bit, a lot of times it's a much better quality. And that's what I'm looking for. The shower blower is a bigger profile. It generates some really good sized fish. All right, so back to filling a limit. So now we're going to go the other way. Uh, one of my favorites is just the Ned. Guys, it's hard to beat a Ned in terms of generating strikes. Lots of good ones out there. I do feel like if I'm looking just to generate a strike, that this is just the Z-Man Finesse TRD, one of my favorites. Any of the green colors, this is Drew's Craw, but you can throw green pumpkin. Any of the natural colors seem to generate really good strikes. But again, it's about getting bites. It's about filtering through fish to get your keepers. And it's just like that little swim bait. You catch a lot of little fish, but because your numbers are increased, it increases the odds of catching a keeper size fish as well. And if I'm looking to put fish in the boat, this is one of those baits that I'm going to pick up to throw. It just is that way. I mean, it's, you know, you're talking about your shaky heads, your drop shots, all of those are great baits and choices. And the Ned to me is kind of the best of all of those worlds. Just a small little compact bait that the fish find to be very non-invasive, and therefore they're very much willing to eat it. All right, so the last one, I'm going to go back to trying to catch a giant. It's so, so hard to write off throwing your big glide baits, guys. A big glide bait is one of the best ways to generate strikes. This is one of my favorites. This is the phony frog glide shad, or the shad glide, whatever you want to call it. This is their albino color. It is an absolute killer bait in generating big strikes. It's one of my favorite glide baits, talked about on the channel before. It's not cheap, and it's one of those baits that's very difficult to get. But this thing, I have had some just mind-blowing days on the water with this. Not necessarily in just fish catches, but in taking a day where I was struggling all day long, not seeing fish, not getting bit, not catching fish. I put this on and it's like I'm fishing on an entirely different lake. I'm seeing fish on every other cast. I'm getting bit. I'm catching big fish. It's pretty amazing the power of a big glide bait. This is one of the ones that I would recommend, and it's a killer. And if I've got a half hour, 15 minutes, whatever at the end of the day to throw a big bait to try to generate that big bite that's going to give me a tournament win or shoot me way up in the tournament, I'm going to go with a big glide bait like that phony frog glide shad. It's just one of those baits that it's got something special about it. So in the comment section, let me know what you guys feel like is your Hail Mary pass or your home run hit. What are the baits you're going to reach for to fill a limit in the last 15 minutes, or to catch a giant in the last 15 minutes? So I'd love to know from you guys. If you enjoyed this video, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. Stay tuned. We'll have a new video coming out tomorrow for you.